and thanks for tuning in to the IrishRacing.com YouTube channel. I'm back with another episode of Form Scanner Special Edition, previewing the two big classics at Epsom this weekend, along with a few other good races as well. I'm delighted to be joined by Donn McClean and Ed Quigley to preview the action. Ed, I'll go to you first. Excitement building for the second two classics of the season even, and we've got the 72-hour decks for the Derby. Did it affect your build-up at all?
Yeah, wow, as you say, what does affect the build-up would be the weather, I suppose. Yeah, glorious sunshine. I'm in Cheltenham, but there's rain clouds gathering over Epsom. They've had 6 millimetres of rain over the course of the last 24 hours. We are recording this around lunchtime on Thursday, but there's more rain en route, and that probably is going to be something that, we often talk about before a big handicap chase in the middle of the winter, like how deep the ground is going to get. But various weather forecasts, Emma, saying anything up to another 8 millimetres of rain between now and kind of start of play on Oaks Day. So just something to bear in mind. A few of these colts and fillies, tackling potentially rain-softened conditions for the first time just adds another complexion to what is already a very trappy and tricky looking couple of classics, if I'm being honest with you. I've been going through these, and normally there's 2 or 3 really bouncing off the page at me, and I'm thinking, right, I can narrow it down to those 2 or 3, and we're going to have a See the Stars, Rick Van Winkle kind of dust up, etc. But here they do, maybe I'm wrong, which could easily be the case, but they seem to feel instinctively gloriously wide open here, and I wouldn't be shocked if we had a little bit of a minor boil over, shall we say. But it's just, on a serious note, it is worth keeping an eye on the weather, because we do get the upper end of the rain forecast. Then, as you say, there are a few colts and fillies in here who've only really grazed pretty quick ground turf, and just adds a different dimension to the contest.
Yeah, for sure. The weather forecast is looking fairly unpredictable. We'll start with the Derby, I suppose, on the Saturday, 3:30, and 19 declared Donn. I think the biggest field in the Derby for over 20 years. An awful lot of talk in the build-up. Who will Ryan Moore ride? And maybe slightly surprising, I suppose, the Line and Winter, a long-term anti-post favourite, but Ryan opts to ride Delacroix, who's currently 11-4 market leader, the Derrinstown Derby trial winner. 2,000 Guineas Hero, ruling course around 3-1, 5-1, Dante winner, Pride of Aris, and 6-1. The Line and Winter is pretty easy to back at the moment. It's an intriguing race, Donn. I suppose we'll start with the favourite Delacroix. It's been a while since the Derrinstown winner went on to win a Derby, but it can be done. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating Derby. I mean, it always is, really, because I suppose even at this time of the year, like we've been building towards the Derby for a little while, but we're still very early in the year. We like these 3-year-olds. A lot of them have run maybe twice, or some of them only once since the season started. So you're going on last year's form, you're going on what they've done this year, and then trying to project what they're going to do. And like the Line in Winter, he was the big winter horse, wasn't he? To coin a phrase, he was the horse that had the X factor going into the winter last season and then coming on to the spring. Delacroix, by contrast, he's just kind of been doing his own thing along. He's won the Ballysacks, won what used to be the Derrinstown, I think it's the Castle Palace Hotel now. And they're the 2 races that, going back to High Chaparral and Galileo, they're the 2 races that they won. But as you said, Emma, it's a while since the Derby trial winner has gone on to win the Derby. Harzan won the Ballysacks and Madonna won the Derby. But you kind of, after that era, Yates won those races as well. Sindar won one of them, and that era is kind of, since that era, we haven't had that kind of those races having the impact on the Derby that they had back then. And even since then, it's been a big part of the narrative, the pre-Derby narrative, that those 2 races were going to have a big impact, but they haven't had that impact for a while. But look, you can see Delacroix. He just keeps on doing his thing. I suppose, I think what he achieved in the Ballysacks was nearly greater than what he achieved in the Derby trial last time. I think the Derby trial his last race, they both run over the same course and distance, obviously, at Leopardstown, but it was a slow pace. It was finishing speed of 115%. And we're going to have Rock of Cashel and Acapulco Bay. They're going to run at Leopardstown this evening, so we might get a bit of a steer on how he did finish 4th and 5th in the race. But in the Ballysacks, it was a faster run race. He beat Lambourne, who won the Chester Vase. He beat Puppet Master, won the Lingfield Derby Trial. He had We Might Take the Long Way behind him. She won the Salsaville Stakes and goes in the Oaks as well. So, like, I thought in the Derrenstown, he had the Derby Trial, he had the run of the race, and he quickened and did it well. He couldn't have done much more than he did, but I just thought he achieved more in the Ballysacks, and it's nearly that line of form for me that's given him his chance. And yeah, look at, we all expected that Ryan Moore would ride the Lion in Winter, and then when he got beaten in the Dante, that obviously that was a setback for him, obviously. But then the market kind of rebounded, didn't it? And he was back into favouritism quite quickly after that. And you expect, like we've seen with City of Troy last year, who was well beaten in the Guineas, won the Derby, August Rodan the year before. Aidan O'Brien's a genius. He can do these things, having been beaten in the Guineas and coming on and winning the Derby. And the Lion of Winter, maybe the same with him. But you kind of touched on it there, Emma. He's been weak in the market. Delacroix's been strong. Ryan Moore is now riding Delacroix. Neither of them are drawn brilliantly. Delacroix's drawn a little bit better than the Lion in Winter, who's right on the far side. But yeah, look, you can see why Delacroix is favourite. I suppose you have to start any Derby analysis with Aidan O'Brien. He's won 10 of them. So, but I think 3 of the last 5 have been not the stable's number 1. 3 of his last 5 winners, something like that. So you have to put the Lion in Winter into the mix. But yeah, you can see why Delacroix is at the top of the market.
I suppose 2 of those 5 winners, like you mentioned, City of Troy, Augusta Rodan, you can definitely draw similarities to the Lion in Winter. Both kind of the best 2-year-olds from Ballydoyle, and disappointed on first start, but definitely worrying that Ryan deserts them, even though, as you said, the second string Aidan O'Brien horse can do well. Ed, your thoughts on Delacroix, I suppose, first. Look, I know the questions may be around the Godolphin horse, Ruling Court, staying the trip, but by Dubarry out of Tepin, a brilliant miler, probably wouldn't scream 1.5 miles to me, to be honest. Donn kind of mentioned he kind of got the run of the race the last time in his Derby trial. What do you think?
Yeah, spot on. I thought Donn has summed up very well. Perhaps unfairly, it's because he didn't quite have the wow factor as a 2-year-old. Maybe naturally we're looking at this and thinking, there's got to be something else in here which is a bit more exciting than Delacroix. I remember when he scrambled home in that Group 3 at the back end of last season. You didn't sit there and go, wow, this is a Derby winner in waiting. We all thought the Lion in Winter was going to be kind of City of Troy Part 2, if you want to call him that. And then he was really edgy and sweaty and looked really wound up in the Dante to move on to the Lion in Winter, which has got to be a worry. Has he trained on? Is his temperament in question? I think both the, if you want to call it, both the Aidan O'Brien hot pots in here, both look vulnerable. Delacroix has been unflashy, but has got the job done so far. But in contests which is perfectly entitled to win, as 4-6 and 1-3 favourite on the last 2 starts, up to 1.5 miles here. But I think there are unknowns to a large extent about 2 horses here, or at least in the case of Delacroix, who's soaking up quite a large chunk of the market. I am just kind of befuddled by the whole classic pictures I touched upon at the top of the show. I think it does have quite a muddling look to it, and unsurprisingly, I'll come on to my selection later on at a bit of a bigger price. But yeah, out the 2, I suppose you've almost got to go with the fact Ryan Moore's close to these horses every day. And Lion in the Winter was all the rage. Was a non-runner, of course, at the back end of last season at Newmarket. Then was really edgy, sweaty, no race at all in the Dante. I remember covering that race on television. And you can't say, perhaps the run was expected or the vibes were negative on the morning. I mean, he went off around 4-6. There was quite strong vibes in the ring, even though he just seemed to blow his lid a little bit going down the post and, never really went a yard. So all in all, a load of word salad to say, if you gave me the choice of the 2, it would be Delacroix, but I'm not convinced necessarily compared to previous years by the Aidan O'Brien crop.
Yeah, I find it hard to get confidence behind the Lion in Winter as well myself. Even though, like we saw it with Lake Victoria, they can take a massive step forward coming from Ballydoyle after their first run, but just seems to be no confidence around them at all. But we'll move on to the 2,000 guineas here, or Desert, or Ruling Court, sorry. I suppose the big question that punters will have around Ruling Court, will he stay the 1.5 miles? Never been beyond a mile. Has formed to reverse with the Lion in Winter from their 2-year-old form, but looks a very, very good 3-year-old in what we've seen so far. Ed, I'll stay with you. What's your thoughts on the Godolphin runner?
Well, just going back to my earlier point, I mean, no doubt in this horse's class, and it's almost layman terms, but the ground has got to be a big factor here. If you're already doubting on a usual Derby year, would the Guineas winner stay a mile and a half when he's got very mixed signals on pedigree? If the ground starts to go soft, I see the clerk of the course said they're holding on to good at the moment is the phrase they're using with more rain on the way. If this ends up a soft ground Derby, there's got to be alarm bells. For all that's to say, the pedigree gives mixed signals. Ruling Court has looked fantastic. Clearly, it's a classic winner. They used to say, the 2,000 guineas, as good a trial as anything for the Derby back in the day. And that form is collaterally is working out well, of course. Field of Gold was arguably unlucky behind Ruling Court, but then got the job put right in no uncertain terms in the Irish equivalent next time out. So, yeah, his form stacks up. Will he stay a mile and a half on rain-softened ground? On balance, I'd probably say no. It'll be interesting, Will Buick's tactics. He's got a handy draw in stall 7. How long does William Buick hold on to him for, I suppose, is going to be the kind of nature of the beast. And I'm really intrigued by him again. A 2,000 guineas winner in here, of which I am I am sitting on the fence. I've got splinters on my backside here. I'm playing my cards a lot later this year with the ground. If this was going to be 21, 22 degrees, a good to firm, I think it would make life a lot easier for punters. But if we do get a soft ground Derby, I just don't see Ruling Court being a cast iron slayer on that ground. Not particularly, blown away by the likes of the Lion and Winter and Delacroix at their prices. So, I'm swerving away from the protagonist personally.
Very good, Donn. Are you with or against Ruling Court? We're kind of ignoring the Dante form a small bit maybe as well. And we've mentioned Lion and Winter, of course, who was 6th, but Pride of Aris in there and Damasus, the first and second from the Dante as well. A few more definitely worth a mention.
Yeah, Ruling Court, like exactly as I was saying, I'd be nervous about his stamina. I suppose the one piece of confidence you have about his stamina is that Charlie Appleby said fairly quickly after the Guineas that the Derby was on the radar. Like he looked, you would think that the St James's Palace Stakes at Royal Ascot would have been the race for him. He was a really good Guineas winner. I know Field of Gold came at him late and only went down by a half a length in the end, but Field of Gold enhanced that form, obviously, by his emphatic victory in the Irish Guineas. And even Wimbledon Hawkeye, who finished 5th, he didn't run badly in the Dante next time. So it's always for me, it's always good when the Guineas winner runs in the Derby. It just gives it an added dimension. So it's great that he's going, and there's all the intrigue about will he stay or won't he stay. He's by Justify. He's out of a High Shepherd Almare who won over a mile. But yeah, I'd be worried about him staying all right. But yeah, the Dante, I think the Dante is a very strong piece of form. Pride of Aris was very good in winning it. And Demesis actually, he took a nice step forward from his Sandown run. Number 2, when he ran well at Sandown, but he shaped as if he'd come on for the run, and he did come on for the run in the Dante. And actually, when he came down the near side, it looked like he was going to go and win the race. He travelled really well, but actually, when you looked over towards the far side, Pride of Aris was travelling even better. And Pride of Aris, I thought he showed a really good attitude to go through a kind of a narrowing gap. It was only his second ever run. It was his first run of the season. He was weak in the market beforehand. So for him to do what he did, for me, was really impressive. The finishing speed was 108%, so he picked up well. He wasn't a beneficiary of being up with the pace. He was fastest through the final furlong of the race as well, so he finished off his race really strongly. And on stamina, so the Dante's 10.5 furlongs, and he saw that well. His dam's 2 wins were over a mile and a half. He's a half brother to Sweet Fantasy. She won 3 times over a mile and a half, including at Epsom over the Derby course and distance, and over hurdles. He's a half brother to Latin Verse, who won over a mile and a half and won over hurdles as well. So I don't think there's any doubt about Pride of Aris staying the trip. I think that the fact that he had enough pace to win a Dante, that's a positive, and that he could be even better over a mile and a half. So I think he's got an awful lot in his favour. He's 2 for 2. He's only run twice. He's won both. He's out in stall 16, which is not ideal. And there's been no Derby winner from stall 16, apparently, since they introduced stalls in 1967. But I'm not sure how many stall 16s there have been. It's you need 16 runners to have a horse in stall 16, but and there have been winners from stall 15 and 17. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And actually, I'd prefer I don't know what you think about this, Ed, but I prefer be drawn high than, given the choice. I mean, ideally be drawn in the middle, but I prefer to be drawn high than low in the Derby, because especially in a big field, because there's that right hand kink initially. You're going uphill against the collar. You're going to be going to the right after whatever, a couple of 100 yards before going back to the left. So I don't think you'd prefer to be drawn a little bit lower, but I don't think his draw is that big a negative.
Yeah, those kind of stats are kind of just there to be broken, aren't they? It's probably a bit of a inflated statistic in a way. Like you said, there mightn't have been an awful lot of 16-1 derbies in the time frame. But look, we've kind of gone through the main market protagonists there. Ed, I've got a feeling you might have a long shot here by the way you're talking.
Yeah, I'm just very quickly on that draw. I see stall 10 is the winning most stall of the Derby, and Lambourne's a horse we haven't mentioned yet who will be coming out of that. But no, I'm with Donn. I quite rate the Dante form, and I actually thought the runner-up Damasus, wonderfully named Damasus. I was looking up Greek mythology. He was the biggest of all Greek giants, and I believe this is something to do with this horse is an absolute monster. He's built like Denman. So he's a proper. He looks like a chaser apparently, which could be a bit of a worry in terms of handling the undulations of Epsom. But I thought he's just been crying out for a mile and a half. Essentially, I thought he came up the hill really well at Sandown in that Group 3, beating just over a length. I know it was only a Group 3, but he shaped like a middle distance horse. And then last time out, again, Pride of Arras won it pretty well, but I thought Damasus ran all the way to the line strongly. I think he'll be really suited by the trip. I much rather take the Dante team versus those we've spoken about. So yeah, Damasus each way at 12-1, I think's fair. And if I was going to go, I'll probably go 2 each way v the field. I think Midak is a total joker in the pack here. For the Aga Khan studs. My footsteps in the stand have a Sindar Dam. So again, a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of pedigree, but obviously the Dam was a stayer. Minya coming from a staying family on the Dam side. And this horse, this filly, I think has got confirmed stamina. I mean, she's won her first 2 starts in minor events over mile 3, over the extended mile 2 last time out. All she did was keep finding. I think she'll be really served by the test. And if a bit of rain did get into the ground, the time was pretty slow when she won at Chantilly. They call it good to soft, but it can be anywhere between heavy and firm in France. You don't quite know, do you? But the ground was pretty slow on a penultimate start, and she ground it out well. She's got to take a step forward class-wise, but it's been supplemented for this. I think we'll stay. And obviously, Mikel Barcelona's no stranger to success in this race as well. So I just thought a bit of an unknown quantity at 16-1 in many respects. And I think we'll enjoy the stamina battle. So I would be doing a bit of a rain dance for Midak. If the ground did turn soft, I could only see that enhancing that one's claim. So, yep, I'm Damasus and Midak versus the field, small each way. I'm just not blown away by those at the top of the market.
Very good. Mikel Barcelona, I'd love to see him do that Pour Moi celebration again, crossing the line. Really memorable. Donn, I'll go to you for your Derby selection before we move on.
Yeah, and celebrates as if he's won the Derby. Yeah, look, Midak definitely. If the rains come and the race has been run in memory of the Aga Khan as well, so he'd be a very appropriate winner, all right. But no, I'm going to stick with Pride of Arras. I just thought what he did in the Dante was very good. I think he's going to improve again. That was his first run of the season, only his second run ever. I think the step up and triple suit him. And yeah, Rafe Beckett's very astute trainer. Ross Ryan, good rider, and draw not ideal, but not too bad either. So I think he's got plenty in his favour. Very
good. I'm going to actually stick with 13 Ruling Court, 2,000 guineas winner. I know there is questions about his stamina, but Justify, Adora Chaparral Mare, Justify kind of gets them over all trips. I just think he looks much improved as a 3-year-old. That Guineas form looks really good after we saw Field of Goal hacking up in the Irish Guineas after that. Seems to be so much confidence in the camp that he'll stay the mile and a half. Like, they didn't have to come here, like you said. You know, he had loads of other options. I think he's the class act, and you know, if he stays the trip, I think he could put up a pretty big performance here. So Ruling Court for me in the Derby. But we'll go on. I think we'll just chat about the next classic first, then we'll go back to some of the other races on the card. So back to Friday, and we're going for the 4 o'clock at the Betfred Oaks, the 1.5 classic for the fillies. And I suppose a similar story again, we've got another Guineas winner back for the Godolphin team, Desert Flower, the standout 3-year-old filly, along with Lake Victoria. I suppose she's 13-8 favourite in here. And I guess it's a question of the same again, Ed. Will Desert Flower stay the trip?
Yeah, good question. I'm instinctively... I much favour her to stay the trip than ruling court, shall we say, in the Derby. That's just my view. I think she hit the line really well in the Guineas. Again, I think there's plenty of hope and encouragement on the dam side that she will stay the trip. And funny enough, Night of Thunder's progeny, even though obviously he was a miler and a Guineas winner, I think they've got around a 20% strike rate over 1.5 miles at the at top level. So, Night of Thunder is siring stayers to an extent, and I just think, I'd be more inclined to row in with Desert Flower as the fillies classic winner over 1 mile here. She looks the class act. Again, it's Donn's going to come on to it. I'm totally confused by the Aidan O'Brien setup. Is in the filly, which I perceive as the how should we say, the third string is essentially the first string, with Ryan Moore picking to ride Mini Hawk. So that's set the alarm bells off. I'm probably with Desert Flower on balance, but I'll keep this brief. I'm looking at a bit of a long shot here. I wouldn't be shocked. I know Donn went with Rafe Beckett in the Derby. If Revoir ran a really big race here with Hector Crouch on board, I know only rated 97, but thoroughly unexposed and is very closely related to Look Here, who won this race back in 2008. And obviously it's the same owners as well, same connections. I just think she'll really relish this step up to 1.5 miles. Only really hit top gear in about the last 100 yards at Newbury in that fillies trial over 10 furlongs. Only really engaged overdrive. The race only got going in earnest inside the hard yards there. Slower ground would also help on pedigree and on what's in the form book. She fairly dotted up in a Nottingham maiden in almost unraceable ground. No, it's not going to be anything like that. But I thought she was a little taken off her feet at Newbury on the times are pretty quick that day. As I said, she only hit top gear and shaped like a proper stayer. She almost shaped a bit more like a ledger type, I thought. And if the ground does go on the slow side, dovetail with a pedigree, I could see her really running on at around 12-1 or there or thereabouts. So, probably Desert Flower, the most likely winner. Just not the type of price for me at 11-8 to be getting excited about. So I'm small each way, Revoir for those Look Here colours from, crikey, where are we? 17, 18 years ago. Tempus Fugit.
Very good. Small each way shout there, but Desert Flower, the most likely winner for Ed. Donn, Ed kind of touched on it there. Were you surprised by the Coolmore jockey bookings here? Ryan opts to ride Mini Hawk, the lowest rated of the three Ballydoyle runners in the field. Whirl 110, Giselle 102, but it's the Chester trial winner that Ryan opts for. I was a little bit surprised. Were you?
I was, Emma. Yeah, I was. I thought he'd ride Whirl, and I thought she'd be the Ballydoyle number 1 in the market as a result. And look, I touched on it there. Whirl has got an official rating of 110. Mini Hawks rated 100. So on official rating, she's got £10 to find with a stable companion. But obviously, she's been impressing at home. I mean, Ryan Moore doesn't do these things without thinking very deeply about them. So obviously, Ryan thinks Mini Hawk has a better chance for whatever reason. There's, obviously she's been impressing everybody at home, or impressing Ryan at home anyway. So look, that's, you absolutely have to respect that. But what we never know about jockeys and when they make selections is it's binary, isn't it? It's 1 or 0. You can't kind of half ride one horse and half ride another one, or I'm 3/4 riding this one and 1/4 the other one. You have to choose one or the other, and we never know how marginal the decision was. And I'm kind of suspecting and kind of hoping that it was a marginal call by Ryan Moore, because the market has reacted as you would expect it to, but it's reacted quite sharply. With Mini Hawk now in a second favourite behind Desert Flower, and Whirl, by contrast, has really drifted. And I think she's going to add to a bigger price than she should be. Whirl has. She was she was very good in winning at York. She won a Group 3 race last year, the Staffordstown Stud Stakes, I think it was, at the Curragh. And again, she wasn't the stable selected. Giselle was in as favourite in front of her. Giselle finished fourth. She won the race, and she won it well. She won it on merit. So, you know, maybe she's a horse who just doesn't impress at home, or saves us for the racetrack, or, you know, she was underrated that day as well. Her debut this season, she was well beaten in the Park Express Stakes by one look, but she bounced out of that last time at York in the Musadora, and like we know, the whole early part of the year, the Aidan O'Brien horses were all improving for a run, and she did exactly that. She was very, very good in winning the Musadora. She was fastest through each of the last three furlongs. So the third last furlong, the second last furlong, and the last furlong, she was fastest of all in the Musadora. And actually, the Musadora was run in a time that was nearly 2 seconds faster than the time in which Pride of Aris won the Dante. Now, they were in different days, and the ground was a little bit slower the following day for the Dante, but it's still a good indicator that it was a good time she clocked. And she's such a well-bred filly. She's by Wooden Bassett, out of a daughter of Galileo, who's a sister to Hermosa and to Hydrangea. And Hydrangea won the Filly and Mare Stakes at Ascot, so stayed a mile and a half well. And she saw out the Musadora trip 10.5 furlongs again, same as the Dante, and she saw that out well. So I don't see that the trip as being a problem for her. Wayne Lorden's a very good rider. She's got stall 9, which I think that's a positive in the field. And she's there are 9 runners in it, aren't there? So she's over on the far side. She's kind of on the inside of the kink, and she likes to go forward. So you can see Wayne Lorden going forward early on her and getting around that kink, and maybe at least getting into a prominent position and going from there. So I think she's got plenty in her favour. For sure, if Ryan was riding her, she'd be a lot shorter than she is. And even if we didn't have an indication as to which was the best of the Ballydoyle fillies, or which was the selected of the Ballydoyle fillies, she'd be shorter than she is as well. So I just think the market has maybe overreacted a small bit to the fact that Ryan Moore is going to ride Minnie Hawk.
Yeah, I'd agree. And, you know, kind of similar to the Derby, Ryan obviously doesn't always get it right. Frankie Dettori did win on the second string for Aidan back in 2021 Snowfall. So Whirl, I think, I would probably give her the best chance to the Ballydoyle ones as well. Minnie Hawk, I suppose he has to be riding her just on the potential that she's got. Like, she must be showing a lot at home, and she should improve an awful lot, but she hasn't done as much on the track for me to be confidently backing her at 7-2 for an Oaks. So I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going for the Godolphin double in the 2 classics. I think Desert Flower, again, stand out. I think the way she races and just the way the connections talk about her, I don't have too much worries about her staying the trip. I know she hasn't been past the mile, but class might see her shine through. I think she's the most likely winner for me, and I find it hard to back against her here. So I might back the Godolphin double in the 2 classics. But we'll move on to a few other races in Epsom across the weekend. I suppose first we'll go to the other Group 1 on the card on the Friday. The 240, the Betfred Coronation Cup, 4-year-old plus over the mile and a half. 7 declared for this one, and it's a very warm French Raider favourite. Calandigan, last year's Royal Ascot hero, a 4-6 favourite, again under that man Michael Barzalona. Maybe finding it a little bit hard to get his head in front since that kind of emphatic Ascot victory last year, but maybe dropping back slightly in class here. Maybe there isn't the same level of opposition that he has been meeting on his last few runs. You can see why he's a short price, Ed, but is he for you?
Most likely winner, officially the highest rated. I think it's the step back up in trip is well, as I say, ran at Maidan last time out over 12 on quick ground, but and that York and Ascot Group 1s at the back end of last season on over 10 furlongs, which I don't think suited. All in all, I think rain softened ground, or the potential rain softened ground over a mile and a half is a big tick in the box. But yeah, just slightly in your mind that is there more than just the trip at play with Calandigan, who's had 3 runner-up spots on the bounce. Now, I think this is a deep race, to be honest with you. I think he's got quite a bit on his plate. Gia Velotto is obviously a fascinating sort. The winner from Chartin of Asheen Murphy, Marco Botti, Jan Bruegel. Clearly needed the run last time out and was excellent last year as a legend winner, etc., etc. So I think Calandigan how should we say, is the right favourite. But I see 4-6 now. I wouldn't be surprised if Clandagan went closer to evens, and the discrepancy between Clandagan and the others contracted nearer the off. If I was looking for a boil over in here, I don't think Ancient Wisdom is 1,000,000 to 1 for your favourite team of Godolphin here. Horse number 1 on the cards, Will Buick, Charlie Appleby. Has a bit to find on ratings, but this horse looks absolutely monster as a 2-year-old. Was quite touted for the Derby at one point. I think went off 6-1 to beat City of Troy. Didn't quite click last season. Won the Jeffrey through in really good fashion. I thought, right, here we go. Here's a Ledger winner. Then just seemed to disappear into the abyss before reappearing in November over in Munich. And then, to say he's a horse with a kind of funny profile, but if he does get a bit of the cut in the ground, it won't be a problem. And I think he showed last time out at Sandown that the old fires do burn. I know it was only a Group 3, but he came up nicely up the hill over a trip which should have been far too short for him these days. I'd say 1.5 miles is probably the minimum I think he wants these days. I think he's a stout stayer at the trip. So again, Ancient Wisdom with an asterisk rain watch. If the rain does get in the ground and it does go slow, this becomes a real test. This is a horse with plenty of soft ground Group 1 winning form on the CV, and he's around 20-1 for the Will Buick Charlie Appleby team. You won't get that many 20-1 pokes in a Group 1 for the boys in blue this season, I don't think. So I'll be tempted by Ancient Wisdom, small each way, to take on Clandagan et al. And I just want more rain.
Godolphin going to clear all the Group 1s across the weekend, so hopefully. But Donn, what did you make of that performance from Jan Bruegel on his reappearance at the Curragh? Obviously beaten by Gallen, but Gallen the winner probably got the run of the race that day. I was thinking, like we've seen with the Aidan O'Brien runners, they come forward an awful lot. I'd expected a lot more from him here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. He got a little bit worked up before the race as well. It was his first run of the season. It was 10 furlongs. And he's a St. Ledger winner starting back over 10 furlongs. So he was vulnerable for all that he was sent off at odds on in the end. But he was vulnerable and he just couldn't get to Galen. And yeah, Galen was probably disappointed a little bit in the Moores Bridge. I suppose maybe he finished 5th. He wasn't beaten that far though. But yeah, I'd say Jan Bruegel will see a different horse now, stepped up in trip. Back up to 1.5 miles with that run under his belt. Like he was unbeaten going into the alleged stakes. He won all his races last year, including the St. Ledger and the Gordon Stakes of Goodwood. So yeah, you can see him stepping forward. But I think Clandagan is just a very good horse. Like I know he was beaten in the Shima Classic, but he was beaten by the Japanese Derby winner. He had Rebels Romance behind him, the Breeders' Cup Turf winner, who then went and just got home in the Yorkshire Cup next time. And that 1.5 mile trip is probably his optimum as well. He won the King Edward, as you said, Emma, over 1.5 miles. And then there's 2 defeats after that. He was beaten by City of Troy in the Jumpman International, which, again, no disgrace in that. He had the Arc winner, Blue Stocking, behind him. And then in the Champion Stakes at Ascot, that was a really messy race, wasn't it? I mean, it was... And Matt going before he came over here and ran in the race at Los Angeles, won the Travis Gold Cup last time. We were going through that race, and Clandagan, it looked like he wasn't going to get a run. Then he got a run. Then looked like Anmat wasn't going to get a run. Then he got a run. He got up and beat him by 0.5 length. So it was still a good run by Clandagan, and it's good that he's a gelding, so he's gonna race on, which is great. So I think he sets the standard. I think he's the most likely winner. Giavoletto, he's the opposite of Jan Bruegel in that he's dropping back down in trip to 1.5 miles. Like he ran in the Dubai Gold Cup last year at Maidan over 2 miles, and this year he's running the Shima Classic, and he was behind Clandagan. So he's kind of reinventing himself as a 1.5 mile horse, as a 5-going 6-year-old. Like he's won 2 Yorkshire Cups. He finished third in the Lonsdale Cup over 2 miles. He finished third last year behind Kyprios in the Irish St. Ledger, and he won the Hong Kong Vase. So he can be he can be a 1.5 mile horse, but. Yeah, I just think Clandagan is a classy horse in the race. He's short, but yeah, I think he's the most likely winner by a fair way.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Probably a no bet one for me. I wouldn't be backing at that short of price, but it's hard to see past him as well on ratings and his performances this year, even in or last year, even in defeat. He's been in pretty top class company. But before we move on to Saturday, maybe do we have anything else on the Friday? Ed, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, just in the last race, the Debenhams handicap, the 5:10 on the Friday. Ross Combs, David O'Mara, Jason Watson. Very straightforward. Has won this race twice, 2021, 2024. Been absolute out in the doldrums in recent times, but ran an eye-catching race. I thought at Chester on the Rudy last time out was 50-1. Clearly wasn't expected to be firing on all cylinders on that occasion, but was only beaten 2.5 lengths or so at the line. Look, I can't imagine anything else other than this horse is being aimed at this race. 2 from 2 over the course of distance by winning this race twice. Gets the race off a mark of 97. So purely on a handicapping perspective, is back on the same mark as when winning this 12 months ago. Winning this 12 months ago. So there are no excuses in regards to saying potentially has the handicapper got the upper hand. You can't say so on previous evidence. So yeah, Ross Cole, I think is 9-2 to win the last race on Friday, and I think goes there with every chance.
Very good, Donn. Anything else for you on Friday?
Yeah, I think the Betfred Nifty 50 handicap is an interesting race. A good 10 furlong handicap. Mutawid is favourite and deservedly so. Like, he was very good at Newmarket last time. He won a 0-95 handicap off a mark of 93. He was raised £10 for that, which was quite a lot. The blinkers are back on then, and he led from early and just came right away from his rivals. It was on fast ground, so Ed's worried about the rain. That'd be you'd have to factor that in here. He's a brother to Mustadaf, who won a Prince of Wales Stakes and a Jubilant International, so he's a really well-bred horse, and he could defy a £10 hike in his rating unless it gets very soft. But an interesting horse in there is Akishita for Kevin Coleman. Like, she's probably not as classy as Mutawid, but she gets plenty of weight as a consequence, or because obviously this is a handicap, and she's just been kind of a little bit below the radar. I thought all season. Like, her run on her debut this season when she finished second to Indigo 5 at the Curragh on soft ground, that was a really good run over a mile when she stayed on. She wasn't beaten far last time back at the Curragh over a mile on good ground, which would have been a sharp enough test for her. The step up and trip should suit her up to 10 furlongs. That's interesting for me. She has run over further. She's run over a mile and a half, but the mile on good ground at the Curragh the last day was just probably a wee bit on the sharp side for her, up to 10 furlongs, and especially if the rains come, that could bring her right into it. And Kevin Coleman went very close with Derry Ladd in this race last year. He was very unlucky in running. He finished off his race well. I think he finished third in the end, but he's a good trainer, Kevin Coleman, and it's interesting that he is sending her over there. If the rains come, then yeah, she could go well at a bit of a price.
Yeah, I still have PTSD from that Derry Ladd run last year. I backed him, and maybe that's what's drawing me into this another Kevin Coleman one on the Nifty 50 handicap. Totally agree with you. I just think her runs over a mile the last few times running in Premier handicaps at the Curragh have been really encouraging. Stepping back up and trip, like you said, she ran over 12 furlongs in Bellestown last year, and she was actually giving £1 to Ger Lyons' horse Poetic Sound, and second to him. He's now rated 101, so you'd imagine her off a mark of 89, she should be capable of winning off it. Career low mark, I think she's nicely weighted. You made the case already, but I think she's a good each way shout for me as well. But we'll give a quick mention to a few more races on the Saturday now before we wrap it up. We'll go to, I suppose, the first on the Saturday. Let me get it up here on my screen. It's the 1:00 Princess Elizabeth Stakes for the fillies, Group 3 over the mile. I think the market is finding it fairly hard to split a few of these. I think it's around 5-1. Skelet, Serona, Royal Dress, Bermuda, Longtail as well, the only 3-year-old in the field. This is a tough one, Ed. Did you find the winner in here, do you think?
I've not got a clue, to be honest with you. Interested Ryan Moore, but for obviously David Minutier. David Minutier yard have been pretty cold in recent times. They're still not firing on all cylinders. They're only 1 from 13 in the last fortnight, but a few of their horses, or a few of his horses, are running a lot better now. And Yeah, interesting to see that Sirona did run a pretty good race last time at Goodwood, despite being far too lit up and keen. Goodwood on that occasion. I think on sufferance almost got to the front rather than wanting to be there, should we say, at Goodwood last time out. And we know they kind of camber around there at Goodwood. You can kind of, you can run out of the jockey's hands, for want of a better phrase. And I just don't think they managed to keep the lid on her on that occasion. That was her first start for 188 days. That has taken the fizz out of proceedings. Then, yeah, she's got to come here with a massive chance. So, yeah, it'd be a token suggestion more than anything, because this is very trappy. If for what it's worth, if you were going to, handicap these, you could throw a blanket over many of them. Now, I know it's not a handicap, it's a Group 3, but it's the best barometer and illustrator we've got, that there isn't a great deal between them on ratings. There isn't a great deal between them in the market, and I think it's going to be a race of very fine margin. So on the assumption Sirona strips fitter and temperament-wise just calms down after that recent spin at Goodwood, the booking of Ryan Moore suggests today we'll see an improved model, in which case I think she's the tentative value at 5-1, shall we say, Emma?
Very good. Yeah, I kind of liked Royal Dress in this. Just watching back her performance in it last year, she was third to Briege and Shickalum, who reopposes this time. So she has to reverse that form, but she looked a massively improved filly last year for the stable switch. She won a Group 3 over 9 furlongs at the Curragh. She's a solid performer in this level over this trip, and like last year's performance, if you watch it back, like she was very, very keen. Met a bit of trouble in running, and she ran a massive race considering the way the race was run. She just her kind of her running style, she'll need a bit of luck, but I don't know. I think she's a filly who's kind of improving with everyone last year. I'd imagine she should be able to reverse the form with Shickalum, who was second in it last year. She's kind of gone backwards, whereas Royal Dress has come forwards. If I was going to pick one from it, like you said, it is a very trappy contest, but she is one I'm a fan of. I like the way she won at the Curragh last year as well, and her form from last year looks pretty decent. So I think Royal Dress would be the one in there for me. Donn, did you have any opinion on the first on Saturday?
Yeah, I can see your case with Royal Dress, Emma, for sure. She's progressive, even though she's had 17 runs, she's still improving. Just she doesn't tend to come on for her seasonal debut. She's won on her seasonal debut for each of the last 2 seasons, but that said, a run the last day at York, like See the Fire, is a very, very good filly of Andrew Balding's, and she finished third behind her in the Middleton. So, yeah, wouldn't put you off. Her Bright Thunder is interesting. I think she's probably going to be favoured, or she is at the minute. She finished third in that race. The Crimson Advocate won the last day at Goodwood, and she had Sirona back a half length behind her in 4th place. Araseg was actually a little bit unlucky in that race, and Araseg was in this race. She was entering the race at the 5-day stage, but she's come out. I was kind of thinking Araseg might reverse placings with Bright Thunder from that run. And Bright Thunder, she ran in the Park Express Stakes at the Curragh on her debut this season, and she was only beaten just over 2 lengths by one look, and she kind of ran as if she'd come on for the run. She led 2 furlongs out, and she was headed at the furlong marker, and she just weakened from there, and she did come on for that run at Goodwood the last day. There's every chance she'll come forward again, so she's interesting. But the one I like is Bermuda Longtail, the 3-year-old filly. She had her first run on turf last time at York. Her 3 runs before that were all on all weather, and it was a good race. It was the Michael Seeley race. It often is. Kon-Tiki, who won it. Jane Chapelheim was saying afterwards that she'd kind of go for a Group 2 race at Sean T next time, and then look into the Falmouth Stakes. So obviously that's a Group 1 race. Like, she's obviously really highly regarded. And Bermuda Longtail she made her ground over on the far side. Kon-Tiki came near side. The 3rd horse, Choya of Ed Walker's, also came near side. And Bermuda Longtail, she was quite well back in the field, but she finished off her race really well. She got to within a half a length of Kon-Tiki at the line, and Choya was about a length and a half behind her in third. So that to me was a really good run. It was only her 4th ever run. She's only 3. She's got loads of potential to improve. It was on fast ground, so she's unproven on on easy ground if the ground does come up easy. But I just think she showed a really good attitude. She's got that really nice profile against some fairly exposed older horses in the race as well. And if she can handle whatever ground comes up, then I think she could go well. She actually needs to improve, but she's got the potential to improve all right.
Very good, very good. We'll move on quickly. We're kind of running a little bit late on time, but we've got one or two races left to mention. The next on the card is let me get it up in front of me. It's the 135, sorry, the Betfred Diomed Stakes Group 3 over the mile. Again, I found this one very, very tricky to work out. Docklands is your 15-8 favourite, 11-4 Persia. Donn, I'll stick with you. I couldn't make head nor tail of this one. I think I'm not really sure, Donn. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's tricky. Like Docklands is the logical favourite for sure, and he ran well last time in the Paradise Stakes, which is, I think that's a Queen Anne trial, isn't it? It's even called a Queen Anne trial. But I think that's the key to Docklands. He's an Ascot horse, isn't he? He's like, all his best runs are at Ascot or abroad, and Epsom. Just, he's priced up in Ascot form, and he's at Epsom. So look, he may well go and win, and that just might be the way it is. But I think we'll probably see a better horse, a better Docklands when he goes back to Ascot. By contrast, Persica won here last year. He won the 10 furlong handicap on this card last year at Epsom off a mark of 92. Obviously, he's going to require an awful lot more to win here this race. But he won a listed race at Ayr, the Doonside Cup. Then he went to Newmarket on his debut this season, and he was very good in winning the Earl of Sefton Stakes. He was prominent from early. He led, and he stayed on really well. I think that was on easy ground. A little bit of rain won't be any harm to him at all. He was well beaten in the Loughlin Stakes last time, and he was a big price in the race. He was obviously outclassed, but he even probably didn't run as well as you still would have liked him to run. But I think you can just put that down to the fact that he was operating in a totally different grade, back down now into a Group 3 race at a track at which he's won before, and good, or ground on the easy side of good, should be just about ideal for him. So, and Ryan Moore's on board. I think he's got a lot of positives.
Yeah, the Ryan Moore booking would always catch your eye, I suppose. Ed, anything to add on that one?
No, not in that race, but my only other fancy on the day is in the following race on the card, in the 210, which is the 3-year-old dash handicap, as it's called. Absolute, obviously, cavalry charge here. 18 due to go to post, but horse number 9, Blinky, I thought ran an eye catcher for all the wrong reasons at Chester last time out. Had the absolute plum draw in stall 1. But almost looked super glued to the stalls, totally fluffed the start. As we know on the Rudy, especially when you've been gifted a plum draw, don't make a mess of it. Dwelt the start, reared up, and basically the race was gone in the first 20 yards. But flew through the pack in the closing stages there to suggest to me that I think there's still plenty of mileage in the handicap mark. This is a less of a draw-dependent track, I would argue, than Chester. I think for an individual who'd been making waves on the all-weather, there was perhaps that feeling as well that, perhaps switching to turf or back to turf, there won't be that progress. But I thought, you can make a whole list of unlucky runners and losers in sprints and 5 furlong events. You'd have a list 300 horses deep. But I genuinely do think Blinky, shaped like a horse who is still well handicapped, just can't afford any tomfoolery when leaving the stall, shall we say. So Blinky at 12-1, be a small selection for myself in the, the 210.
Selection, one of the dashes. Donn, do you get involved in either the 3-year-old dash or the dash that precedes the Derby on the day?
Yeah, I definitely look for it. The dash used to have to be drawn towards the near side. Yeah, you had to be drawn high, but that's not the case anymore. And it kind of is taken away one of the angles. Not that it wasn't an angle that wasn't factored into the markets, but look, JM Jungle, you can see why he's favourite. He's just an honest to God good sprint handicapper, over 5 furlongs, shows a lot of pace, likes to race up with the pace, and you can see him running a big race again. But I suppose if forced in the dash, Spartan Arrow was the one that I was kind of looking at. He was well beaten last time at York in that race, that American Affair one, in which JM Jungle was actually second. But he got a wee bit of a bump at the start, which wasn't ideal. His previous run at Epsom at their Blue Ribbon meeting, that was a really good run over this course and distance, when he won really impressively by 2.5 lengths, which is it's a fair margin in a sprint, especially a sprint at Epsom. He's up to a mark of 99 now, so £7 higher. But I think back here that's more than surmountable. he was racing in cheek pieces for the first time that day, and they're obviously retained, so that's a positive for me. And he's got a draw in stall 18. It's not a deal breaker, I think, the draw, but I think you still prefer be high than low. So yeah, I think Spartan Arrow is, he's a bit of a price, and he's got plenty in his favour, I think.
Spartan Arrow, double figure each way, shout in the dash as well. So I think we've gone through plenty there in the past 45 minutes or so. Before we wrap it up, lads, I'll just ask you for your best bet maybe across the 2 days. Donn, I'll stick with you first if you have one.
Yeah, I think in the Derby, as we discussed, I think Pride of Aris, I can see him drifting as well. He doesn't seem to be that fashionable, but I think the Dante form is really strong. He did an awful lot right in the Dante. He should improve for that experience, his first run of the season, a race in which he was weak, just his second run ever. And there's every chance that he'll improve as well for stepping out and trip. His pedigree suggests that, and his racing style suggests it as well. He was fastest through the final furlong of the Dante, and yeah, I think he could outrun his odds.
Very good. Ed?
Be Ross Colne in the finale on Oaks Day on the Friday. Has won the race twice. Clearly been teed up for this. Back to the same mark as when winning it 12 months ago. And 9-2. Hard to kind of boot out the frame personally. So Ross Colne 5-10 Epsom on the Friday.
Very good. For myself, I'll probably go with Desert Flower in the Oak. Sorry, I think she should be shorter, but that's a bit boring. So I'll put up Kevin Coleman's Akecha in the Nifty 50 handicap on the Friday. I think she's around 10-1 when I looked earlier this morning. Massive each way shout, I'd say. Stepping back up and trip. Kevin Coleman, like Donn said, very shrewd man, knows how to target a race like this. So Akecha would be one of my best bets of the 2 days. But thanks very much, Donn and Ed, for all your contributions. Thanks everyone for tuning into the show as well. If you like the content, make sure and like and subscribe because there's plenty coming up in the coming weeks.